thank you guys for coming. Just wanted to kick it off by saying, we're glad that you guys made it. Thank you for coming to our first lecture of the semester. We do have a lot of stuff going on. We are going to have another lecture on March 10th, and then we do have our banquet. Just to let you know, we start selling tickets for our banquet starting Monday. So if you have any questions, just email us or text us, or even contact our Instagram. But other than that, just enjoy the show, and I'd like to introduce you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight at our first lecture for the spring semester. We're excited to have you guys here. Unfortunately, as you could see, our screens are slow. Our monitors are slowly dying, and hopefully now the school will pay attention to us and know that we need a new set of monitors. I am happy to have Reneé here with us today. I met her a while back, back in approximately 2006, I believe, when I was working for a project management firm, and she was starting the USGBC Council here in El Paso. USGBC, for those of you that don't know, is the lead, that leadership in environmental and energy and environmental design. And Reneé was very, very active in making that happen. Since then, she has become a prominent architect here in El Paso, and is the principal of her own firm, MNK. And she's always been very helpful to EPCC and very active in the community. And so now I'll pass it on to Reneé Jimenez.
All right, let's see. Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay, all these gadgets, let's see. I have like a remote here and this here. I don't know if I can walk around. It's too many things. All right, well, good evening. Thank you, Emmanuel, for giving me such a great introduction. So I was super flattered to be invited to speak to you all tonight for many reasons. I graduated from EPCC back in, gosh, that was 97 with my associates, and I feel very special to be here tonight. So when I was going to school here, there was about 20 in a class. And out of the 20, there was only three women. So it's nice to see, looking out here in the audience, how many women there are. So it's really come a long way. So thank you, ladies. So I was wondering why I was invited. And then I was like, well, what do I speak about? Super nervous. I had no idea. Do I talk about an architectural project? Do I talk about my firm? Do I talk about how I got where I'm at? And so I chose the latter. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit how I came to be where I am today and what it took to get here. So I started off in very humble beginnings. I didn't come from wealth. I graduated from Andrews High School here locally. And this institution gave me the opportunity to become a successful businesswoman in our community and to run one of the largest architectural firms here in El Paso. So I owe that a lot to this college. So how I started, if this doesn't work, it doesn't work. All right, let me do this way. This is gonna be a challenge. You can't click on it.
Uh-oh, okay.
There we go, all right. So you're probably wondering why my kids passed out Tootsie Rolls as you got here today. So I actually started my business career selling Tootsie Rolls. I borrowed $5 from my parents, and I went out and I bought a big bag of Tootsie Rolls, 760 Tootsie Rolls, and I sold them for 1 cent each over a span of a couple days. From the profits I earned from that bag of Tootsie Rolls, I reinvested it into my business, and I bought Fireballs. And so then I bought another bag of Tootsie Rolls, and then I bought some Fireballs, and then I would sell those, and then I would keep investing in my business. So then I got Smarties, and then Nerds, and then Sugar Babies, and then Jolly Ranchers, and Fun Dip. I grew it so big that I had to ask my dad for his tool chest. So I borrowed my dad's tool chest, and I packed it all up with candies, organized it really nice. And then for Christmas, I asked Santa for a popcorn maker. So I got a popcorn maker, and I started selling popcorn. I would roll my little tool chest out to the corner of the yard every morning, or not every morning, after school. I would run home from school, set up my table, set up my little stand, and it got like, I grew pretty big. So eventually I invested in getting a snow cone machine. So my dad bought me this huge commercial grade ice maker. It was used and it was old beat up, and he refurbished it for me. So now I was selling snow cones. And I also invested in getting a little candy shack. So I designed a little candy shack with my dad, and my dad helped me build it. And I stuck it on one side of the yard, and my profits weren't coming in as well as when I was on the other corner. So I had my dad put wheels on it, roll it to the other side of the house, so I could make a little bit more profit. So by the 3rd and 4th grade is when I got my snow cone machine. I would rush home after school from starting in 1st grade all the way up to middle school. And I went to H.E. Charles, so I would have my dad pick me up right away and take me home to sell my candy. And I did that all the way through middle school. When I got into high school, it became a little bit more of a challenge, because by the time I got home from high school, most of the kids had already passed over the house, so didn't really make that much money by then. But I learned a couple things while running this business. I learned that as a little girl, that believing was more than just a dream. I learned that you have to believe that you can achieve great things and reach the highest levels of life. You have to be able to look outside of your world today and see what it could be in the future. And that you needed to plan, and you needed to prepare yourself in order to achieve anything in life. So planning and preparation was the key to becoming anything. It takes hard work, and it takes lots of effort, and preparation taught me dedication, and it taught me discipline. The best and biggest things I realized through all of this is that it all starts with believing. So I want to ask you, are you guys familiar with the redwood tree? Anybody? Have you seen one? No? Yes? No? You guys know how big they get? 360 feet tall, 20 feet in diameter. That's pretty large, right? So where does all of that energy and all of that power come from? How does this tiny little seed, look at the little seeds there. How does those little tiny seeds become something so spectacular? Ask yourself that. Something so grand, so great. The only answer is it's God-given. It's God-given. If only a redwood seed had the potential for if the redwood seed had the potential for greatness, imagine the potential that all of you have. Imagine that. Imagine that. So, we all have it. We all just need to dig inside of ourselves and believe in it and use it. Believe me, I encounter challenges along my way. In fact, my biggest challenge is I have a learning disability. I have a really difficult time reading and really difficult writing. In fact, I had a friend review my PowerPoint presentation. I have nearly had every word misspelled. If I would have left it that way, you guys would be on the floor laughing, but thank goodness I had him to change it for me. So, but this disability really caused me to work harder and to overcompensate for my disability. When I was studying for my architectural exams, I had a study partner, and we would schedule when we would meet, and then from that schedule, we would outline what we were going to study for that week. So she would read something once, I would have to read it 5 times. I would have to draw a diagram. I would have to make flashcards. I would have to highlight the book. I had to do everything possible different than what she did. So it really took me a lot of more effort than somebody else. And that became the case all the way through my career. It still takes me a lot. But I believed in me. And so the effort was worth it. And I took that effort and I did it. So I also had moments of doubt. And I still do. My senior year at Andrus, I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to study. I had no idea. I worked at Village Inn. I made great tips. I made more money than my mom did as a teacher. So I thought, I'll just be a waitress for the rest of my life. Shoot, I make a lot of money. But 2 weeks in, right before I was getting ready to graduate, I had this substitute teacher. And in my resource class, which was the class for the kids with disabilities in, it was a minimal class, it was like 5 of us. She came in and she told us that none of us, the chances of any of us graduating from college is zero. Even going to college, it's 0. So, geez, I was like, I'm gonna take this as a challenge. So I used it to motivate myself. This is where I would gain my inspiration from. So I immediately went, like a week later, I went to EPCC. And I went to talk to a counselor. And I stepped in, I was gonna sign up for college. And I sat down and talked to a counselor. And the counselor says, well, what do you wanna study? I didn't have no idea. I said, I don't know, what's my choices? So he started going down the list. You can ask my kids, they're here today. I have 0 patience, right? Do I have any patience? 0. Some of my employees are here too, back there. Do I have any patience? No, see? 0. They got to number 7 on the list because I couldn't go down the list. Architecture. That sounds great. I'll study architecture. So I picked architecture, that's how I picked it. Thank goodness it was A's. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian when I was younger, and then I couldn't stand blood, and I couldn't stand hair, and I couldn't stand nails, and I couldn't stand death, and I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So thank goodness architecture was on number 7 on the list. So I'm very efficient in how I think. So I thought, okay, what's the most efficient way, and how do I come up with a plan of how I'm gonna get through college? So I joined the well, actually, they didn't have an architecture club here at EPCC. I started it. I was the first president, like Sarah, of the architecture club here at EPCC. So I decided I was going to organize a tour of Texas universities. So that's what I did. I got a group of kids and I said, let's go visit different universities in Texas. We went to UT, we went to Texas Tech, we went to Texas A&M, we went to Rice, we went to University of Arlington, and ultimately I settled on A&M because they were the only one that would take all my credits. And I wasn't about to take another course class that I didn't have to. So it was all about efficiency to me. But this university was also very different. It was very technical. It's a very technical school, and which was, to me, a major advantage. It gave me a method of approach to design that was more realistic and more practical. So that benefited me in my long run. Another thing I did was I wanted to find out how to learn through other means. So I used to tutor classmates with AutoCAD for a fee, of course. And, and then I worked in the computer lab while I was doing it. So I was like double dipping. I got double dip. So I did that for a while. And then I said, you know what, let me get some internship. So I went and applied for some internships. So I worked at ECM International here locally. And then I worked for CRA. It was an architectural firm that was actually out of Dallas. And they had an office here in El Paso. So I interned for both of them and also worked at Village Inn and also went to school full time. And then I went to College Station. And in College Station, I worked for BRW Architects. But I used those internships to my advantage. I developed mentorships through the individuals that I worked with. They would critique my work, but I probably shouldn't tell you this, but it was a shortcut. Maybe I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm gonna tell you. So I used to, you had to draw by hand back then, but the architectural firm I was working for had one of those plotters, and I figured out, and I would strategically figure out how to make the plotter printed exactly the pin weights of how you were drawing. So I would draw everything in CAD, and rather than drawing it by hand, I would print it on the plotters, and the instructor could not tell the difference. But it actually was to my benefit, and it would help me later because I became like this CAD guru. So it worked. So where was I? Here we go. So I did those internships, and if you want to thrive in this profession, You need to have hunger to learn. You, on your own, you need to take the initiative to get out there and like find avenues to learn more other than school. And don't wait for others to give you that path. Don't do that. Go find your internship and put yourself out there and speak up, ask questions, learn on your own. So regardless of the challenges and the doubts, don't let any of those stop you. Continue to believe in yourself. And again, believing in yourself is the first key. Don't let others depict your future like that substitute. I could have said, she's right, I'm not gonna go to college, but I didn't do that. I believed in myself. So all of you, just believe in yourself. Know what's out there and make a plan, go get it. So after A&M, I moved to Phoenix. And I interviewed with 19 architectural firms. And I landed the most amazing job with DWL. That gave me the opportunity to work on projects like Sky Harbor Airport, Mesa Art Center. These are huge projects, huge projects. Learned how to manage these. On Mesa Art Center, I was actually the one that was in charge of designing all the steps. My maiden name is Step, so I guess people thought like I had like an expertise in stairs or something, I don't know. So there's where I started preparing for my licensing. My parents helped me find a place to stay. So I had a family that I lived with, but I also learned something else from this story. So the house that, the family that I lived with, I would wake up before they did and I would go to work and then I would get home and they were already asleep. Well, they thought I was a drug addict. And they decided to do like an intervention. So they sat me down, they called my parents and they asked me if I was a drug addict. Well, they kicked me out of their house. They kicked me out of their house. They didn't believe me because I worked all the time. They were like, how does this girl working so much? There's no way. There's no way. She's got to be like on coke or I don't know, speed or something. I don't know what they thought. Anyway, so I had to go find myself another place to live and picked up and went on. But what I learned from that is there's a lot of sacrifices you have to take in this business. And over the span of my career, I've had to make a lot of sacrifices, a lot. I've had to sacrifice my personal time. I've had to sacrifice time with my family. And even harder, I've had to sacrifice time with my kids. That's the hardest one. And I still don't have it figured out. Balance is probably the hardest thing. Balancing work with your profession, with your personal life is still a challenge to me. I still can't figure it out. I still can't figure it out. But there's one thing that I did learn: you do not sacrifice. You do not sacrifice your morals, and you do not sacrifice your integrity. So I did learn that. The other thing I learned is don't take shortcuts. Don't take shortcuts because in the end, it ends up in the longer road. It ends up in the longer road. So don't do it. The key is to surround yourself with people that are positive, for sure, and those that really build up the strengths that maybe you don't have. So let me tell you my MNK story. So after being in Phoenix for 5 years, my husband wanted to move back to El Paso. I did not want to move back to El Paso. Absolutely, I did not. So I made it as hard as I could, tried not to find a job. Then I landed a job. I landed a job at MNK. This was back in 2005. Everyone thinks that opportunities come to you and they're gift wrapped and you just take them and they come to you. Well, most of the time, you don't even know that there's an opportunity there. Well, there was an opportunity waiting for me, an amazing opportunity, and I didn't even know it. I immediately saw that when I moved here that I was no longer this small little fish in this big ocean. I now had a voice. In El Paso, you can make a difference. So Manuel talked about that I started the U.S. Green Building Council chapter here in El Paso. Well, that was my first realizing I actually have a voice here. I can make a difference, and people are going to listen to me. So I was the first lead AP in El Paso when I got here. People told me, nobody wants sustainability in El Paso. They doubted me all over the place. And I said, I'm going to do it anyways. So I started the U.S. Green Building Council. I got to represent El Paso on a regional level, on a national level, and I saw change. The city made adoptions for LEED. There's a lot of sustainability changes because I made it happen. So I knew that, there was people behind me. Don't worry, I didn't do it on my own. But I got people behind me, and that's how I made it happen, because you need a team. You can't do anything without a team. So anyways, I got licensed immediately. And as soon as I got licensed, the three principals of MNK pulled me into the conference room, and they asked if I would be a principal in the firm. I said, well, let me ask you a question. I asked the three of them, how long are you going to be around? The M in the MNK says 5 years. The N says 7 years. And the K says 15 years. All right, 15 years. That's enough for me to learn, right? All right. I accept. So the first projects that I worked at MNK was the El Paso International Airport. I worked on this one before I was licensed, and it was a great opportunity. It was like one of the biggest projects in El Paso. I had an amazing time learning from this one. And I got to work on the ballpark. This one was a unique one because the firm I was in Phoenix was designing the ballpark in Phoenix, and they were partnered with Populous. And Populous, if anybody knows does anybody know who Populous is? No. Okay, well, they're the largest sport architectural firm in the world. So probably all of those Olympic buildings you see, they designed them. So Populous calls me, and they say they got my name from the firm I worked for in Phoenix, and they want to interview me to see if I would team with them on the baseball project. So I go sit down with them, and they want to team with MNK, and I'm like, yes. So I got to be the architect of record. Populous did all the sports piece of it, and all the exterior was done by my firm. So this is a fun project to work on. It was actually the very first lead silver baseball park in the world, the ballpark. I don't know if you guys knew that, but then I got to work on the digital wall. This is also a first. In the US, this is the first digital wall ever. The second one in the world. And we have it right here in El Paso. So if you haven't gone and checked it out, go check it out. So after being a partner for 3 years, the partner that said he was going to be there the longest, well, he's gone. 2 years later, the other two are gone. I was on my own. I was like, oh shoot, I'm going to stink. This is not enough time to learn anything. We've only been here for 3 years and then 5 years with the other two leaving. So I thought I was going to fail. But there's no shame in failing, right? You only fail if you don't try. So I'm going to try. I'm going to try. I'm not going to give up. But there were some hard times. Absolutely. There was times where I didn't get paid. I didn't pay myself. I had to pay my employees. I wasn't getting paid. 6 months. 6 months of it. I started thinking, oh man, I got to keep this reputation of these three men. And I got to keep this firm going. I can't go down. I can't go down. Got to keep going. So I went to church one Sunday and asked God to just help me. Help me. I didn't know what to do. I came to a decision that I wasn't going to go spiral all the way down. And I started asking myself, how far do you go before you say no more? And because you're not going to come back up. That's what I started asking myself. So that Monday I went in and I told my partner, I said, you know what, we really need to have a conversation. Like, how far is far enough and what do we do? There's some hard decisions that we got to make. Well, that Tuesday I get a call. YISD calls me and they said, Reneé, we're calling to notify you that you got one of the bond projects here from YISD. And we want you to come in and negotiate your fee at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Oh my God, I was so excited. I hung up. I didn't ask any questions. I just hung up. So I hung up, and then I realized I didn't even know what project I won. I knew nothing. So I was like, oh man, I was so embarrassed I couldn't call him back. So that night, my daughter Jessica was with me. She was going to I guess she had to interview. She was going to get interviewed for the Young Women's Leadership Academy here in El Paso. It was the new school that was opening up. And she had to go to Isleta to do it, and her appointment was at 5. Well, we got there a little early. I sent Jessica off to go do her interview, and I said, I'm going to go to the purchasing department. So I'm standing in this little hallway, and I can hear voices talking, but I'm walking in, and there's nobody. Everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. There's nobody at the reception desk, and I'm standing in this hallway like, what do I do? And I could hear these voices talking, and then I hear them saying, well, MNK got Eastwood, and they're listing all the architects that got which projects. And I'm like, Eastwood? And I was like, I should not be standing here. So I turned around real quick, and I walked out, and I sat on the bench. And I sat there for a little bit, And then I said, I got Eastwood? Like, I'm talking to myself, I got Eastwood? And then I was like, who do I call? I didn't even know who to call. And I was like, who do I call? So I called Rolando. He's our mechanical engineer. He's one of my closest friends. He runs his own business. So we have a lot of, common things that we pass each other. And I called Rolando and I said, Rolando, we want Eastwood. And he was like, no way. And I was like, yeah, we want Eastwood. And then I just started crying. I was like, we want Eastwood. So then the next day I had to go in and negotiate this fee. This was a $52 million budget at the time that we got it. $52 million project. By the time we finished this project, it was $92 million. It's a $92 million school right there. Won some national awards. It's a beautiful school. The kids are very proud of it. Did anybody go to Eastwood? Oh, what do you guys think? Yeah, you like it? Were you there when it was done? Awesome. Yeah. So from this one, now we're doing Bel Air. Who went to Bel Air? Yeah. So Bel Air's under construction right now. They just moved into the main building there, and they're wrapping up, and they'll be wrapped up by the summer. So, but from the reputation that we had on Eastwood, we were able to get the next bond project, which was Bel Air. We also did El Paso High, their new fine arts building. And that was a beautiful project too. And this one really took a lot of effort because the alumni that goes to El Paso High, if anybody went to El Paso High, the alumni is very strong there and very passionate and very vocal about what they want. So we really had to work with the community and really get their input on what they wanted their new building to look like. So this one was pretty more of a challenge from a design perspective, where Eastwood was more of a challenge from how do we phase this? How do we keep a school open? And then we came up with this whole portable village, which if you were there, you probably were in the portable village too. So that was a challenge. And then we did Burgess. We did Burgess also. And Burgess was very similar to Eastwood, not as big as Eastwood, but it had a lot of the, same challenges as far as keeping the students intact and while you're building it. But it was fun. All of these won awards. I will tell you that you can't do any of this. This was not all me. By no means was this all me. I'm very lucky to have a great group of employees that work for me. Some of them are here today. They should stand up. And you guys should applaud them. So we have a mission statement, and we developed it as a group. The firm came up with this mission. So MNK is an award-winning architectural design firm. We co-create with our communities to deliver designs that inspire, connect, and perform. Our passion is to transformation of spaces that shape communities and elevate the human experience. So we came up with that as a team. This is not my mission. This is our team's mission. And I can tell you that we do co-create together. You heard my story about El Paso. We're not like a cookie cutter architectural firm where you can drive around town and you kind of know which architects did what. MNK doesn't do that. Each client is very unique to us, and it's their design, and we want to hear what they want to do, and we listen to them. And that's the biggest thing that's different about us from other architectural firms. We actually listen. So, and we're dedicated, and we communicate, and we have an amazing team. We know what our weaknesses are, we know what our strengths are, and we know how to rely on each other. I have been very fortunate to have gone to college and to have sat on several boards within our community and done professional endeavors throughout my career. There's been some very, very, very successful people in my life that have taught me so much in my profession and how you run a business and how to be a great entrepreneur. But I learned the most important lessons from a very special man. He didn't graduate from high school. He had a hard time reading and spelling too. And he was adopted several times, and that must have felt like rejection, right? But you know what? This man also joined the military at the age of 16, and he was in a training exercise, and 4 of the gentlemen that were in this exercise with him, soldiers, they didn't make it. He was the only one that made it. And he ended up being 100% disabled And in spite of all of this, he never stopped believing in himself. And he even helped others believe in themselves. And so believing is the first step, as I tell you. So just believe in yourselves. And through his example, he made me understand that the importance of believing in yourself. So always take a positive outlook on even the most difficult situations. Walk away not feeling sorry for yourself, but learn from it, laugh at it. And above all, be better because of it. I'm fortunate my dad is here today. He is my biggest mentor. So my wish for all of you is for you to do your best. For you to make an impact for the better, and for you to realize your God-givenness greatness. Learn from those who care for you, your parents, your family members, your teachers. And most of all, my wish for all of you is that you allow your G3, your God-given greatness, to be released. So, thank you. And if you guys have any questions, I'm here.
I was supposed to get another microphone, but we only got one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around. Because this is being recorded. So if you have a question, we'll ask it, and then we'll pass the microphone back to Reneé. So any questions?
I don't have a question, but I just want to tell you that your speech was so inspirational, and I'm pretty sure your father is very proud of you.
I went to Eastwood when everything was like destroyed, and we went through the whole construction, and I got to go through the new school. And I want to say, like, that's the reason that I'm here, like seeing like how impactful that was. And yeah, it was a really beautiful environment.
What was the thing that like made you like not want to come to El Paso? And then what was the thing that actually like pushed you? Like, oh, okay, I understand.
So, well, man, hopefully this one doesn't get me all emotional. My mom passed away in a very tragic accident. So coming back to El Paso was, and still like even going to the Northeast is very hard for me. That was a big reason why I want to come back to El Paso. And I thought I was naive to think that moving to a bigger city had more opportunity. But in reality, El Paso has the best opportunity. Like I said, you can be heard here. I actually encourage people to go away and then come back. Some people might disagree with me, but I think going away is a good thing. And then come back and just bring something great.
Out of curiosity, how was the licensing process for you to get licensed?
So I actually got licensed in Arizona because I have my bachelor's degree. I do not have a master's. I got my degree in A&M, and then when I moved to Phoenix, I decided to get licensed there because I knew in Texas you had to have a master's. So yeah, I kind of took a shortcut, right?
No, it's not a shortcut.
A different path, yeah.
I tell them about different paths
yeah.
too, so it's not a shortcut.
So yeah, so I it is hard. But I did have trouble getting licensed in New Mexico. That was probably, and I just got licensed in New Mexico last year. That one, they require all kinds of crazy stuff because I didn't have my master's. Like I had to like get 3 letters from 3 licensed architects and show that I had, even though I ran my own firm, like I was kind of a little bit of insulted by it, but.
Yeah, I know some people from the state board in New Mexico also. So yeah, you went through a hard. Okay, quick question. Okay, I'll be right there.
I have a question now. So what is the biggest challenge as far as the green building here in El Paso? And if you know, whatever that challenge is, does it have to do with culture, with, you know, the local culture?
I think that in El Paso, there's a misconception that building and designing for sustainability costs more. So that's something to overcome. And then the other thing, I think that I don't think that our city and our county put enough emphasis on sustainability as much as they should. There's with regards to LEED, there is a cost associated with getting your building certified and going through that whole checklist. But I don't necessarily think that you need to get LEED certification to design a sustainable building. And so in my architectural firm, we try to design, well, actually we do. We design everything with sustainability in mind.
I just remembered that we're also on Zoom. So if you have a question on Zoom, if you'll put it in the chat and we'll come back to you, okay?
So like, what are some of the elements that go into creating a school? Because personally, one of the things I really like about this facility is that it's really open, so people can really interact with each other. We can talk to each other. So whenever you're creating a school, do you try to make those environments for people to be with each other, or like what program do you try to include into the building?
So the design of schools has really changed over the last several years. I will say that, like Eastwood, for example, if you went to Eastwood, you'll notice a huge change if you were there before versus after. There's a lot of collaboration spaces within the classrooms. And every school's been different because, like, for example, Burgess, we had one principal we started with, and then we ended with a different principal. And the first principal had the idea of doing like educational pods. So like, in other words, by grade level. So it was like you would have a science classroom, a math classroom, an English classroom, and a social studies classroom, and then this collaboration space in the middle. Where at Eastwood was a different concept. It was, we're going to have pods, but they're all going to be like English pod and then a science pod. And that's how they wanted their design. So every school is very different. But yes, to answer your question with regards to collaboration, we're doing 21st century learning in all of our new educational facilities. It's been a challenge because of the shootings that's happened recently. So a lot of times with these collaboration spaces, you have glass like you have here, but they're operable and they open up to this more collaboration space on the outside. But because of the shootings and stuff, now they cover everything up and there's curtains and people don't want to be seen. And it's been a little bit challenged since just recently with designing schools.
Do we have any?
Yes, we do. Yeah. So there's a couple questions on here. Does MNK offer internships? And if so, what are some of the duties of an intern? So I'll answer that. So yes, we do have internships. I believe in giving back. I was an intern, so I think that having internships within my firm is something we will always continue. We always try to at least have one intern in the firm. There's different levels of internships in our firm. A lot of times people will come in just because they want the experience. And if you're there and you want the experience, you can follow us. Follow us, go to the job site, go with us to construction meetings, go with us to design meetings, and participate in that way. And that really gives you a knowledge of how we run a firm. There's other internships where it's a paid internship opportunity. And in that respect, you're expected to work. You're not just there to follow us. And so that's a different kind of aspect. So if you were doing in that respect, we started one of our interns who graduated from A&M. He started as a paid intern. And so he started off doing like code review, which is how I started off. So, and then he went away, went back to college, and then he came back as, and he's now, well, he's still an intern, but he's graduated. And now he's going back to school again with his master's. So his second time around, now he's just grown. He's like one of our Revit gurus, and he just still does the code review, and he's doing renderings, and he's just elevated beyond belief. And so he's getting ready to go back to A&M to get his master's, and I pray he comes back to me when he's done.
Any other questions? We have a few more minutes.
How would you define success?
Of course, my daughter gives me the hard one. To me, success is really making an impact. To me, that's success. So making an impact, how many people do you touch? How many people do you touch in a positive way? And in the end, that's a purpose. Like, what's your purpose in life, right? So to me, it's just making a difference. There's a good question here. It says, have you always been a confident person in pursuit to architecture? Or is there certain moments in college you felt like doing something else? I don't know. Let's see. Did I ever think of doing something else? No, I don't think so. I think I stuck with what I wanted to do. Was I always confident? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I still get super nervous. I was super nervous to talk to you guys, to be honest. No, I'm not. I'm very confident.
Anybody else? No? Oh, okay, we got one over there.
Hello. I'm guessing you've made some mistakes throughout your project. And my question will be, like, from those mistakes on projects, like, what have you gotten from those mistakes?
Oh, we're getting some good questions.
Have I made mistakes on projects? Absolutely. Lots of them. Even on the same project. Lots of mistakes. Most recent mistake. I'll tell you my most recent mistake. During COVID, we designed Bel Air High School, and there's a vault where they keep all the tests and all of that. Well, guess what? The vault has windows. How did I miss that? Right? So yes, there's always mistakes. What was the second part of your question? How did we learn from it? Or yeah, you fix it, you pay for it because you made the mistake. And you just have to continue to look at your drawings and continue to make sure you're reviewing things. I miss that. We have different people in the office, but ultimately I'm the one responsible. I'm the one that signs it. So anybody messes up in the office, I'm the one that has to take the responsibility. It's all my fault.
Yeah, aren't you excited to become an architect, huh? You're responsible for everything. Anybody else?
Why have you not rebranded the firm in question? No worries, I think a lot of people so that, and can you maybe talk about that? Could it be succession of the firm, right? Maybe buy the firm and the transition?
So when I came on board, the 3 original partners, and they brought me in as a 4th partner, when they all retired, I always say that I inherited a jewel. Yes, I worked hard for that jewel, but I inherited a jewel. And I think that those 3 original partners, they put a lot of work into what they did. And I feel that they deserve some of that credit. So it used to be Moore Nordell Kroger Architects. And then I changed it to MNK Architects. And then we just recently rebranded the logo. I think just giving them that respect, they deserve that. They started it. And so that's how I feel.
What was the process like when designing the logo? Like what steps did you take?
This logo was fun to design. So we actually hired a marketing team to help us. We hired Ghostlight. They helped us redo our branding. So they hired us. They came in, they interviewed us, they got to know us, they got to see like what our style is. I didn't want to really make too much changes to the logo because our original logo had like this little swirl. If anybody remembers it, it was actually Mervin's signature, Mervin Moore. Yeah. It was a red square with Mervin Moore's signature. And I didn't want to get rid of the signature. So they came back and they gave us like, 6 options of what the new logo could look like. I didn't want to get rid of red. And so they showed us options with the signature in there. And then they showed a couple later because they knew I wanted to keep it. So they were afraid to show me the ones without the signature. And then they showed us the one with the signature. And then I was like, I kind of like it. It's kind of classy. It's kind of, different. So ultimately we voted in the office, and the whole office voted, and the most votes was the one I liked. Because I voted 5 times now.
Okay. It's yours anyway. Anybody else? No? Okay, I guess that's it. Reneé, thank you very much for your time and your inspiration, really.
So if you ate a Tootsie Roll, you owe, now I think the inflation factor is probably like 10 cents for a Tootsie Roll. So however many you ate, my sons will walk around and you guys can pay up. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Thank you very much. And we will see you again in March. March 10th, we have Antje Steinmuller from California College of the Arts coming to join us. So we're excited for that. See you next time. Thank you.